Alright everyone, 2 years is a long time to hold a grudge. Like, unless it's something really significant. Well, the left sure as hell thinks that Merrick Garland is significant. You remember, years and years prior, they invoked the nuclear option to change the Senate's voting rules and get rid of the filibuster on Supreme Court nominees. And at the time, a lot of people warned him it was a bad idea. They have gotten rid of it, so now they can't stop Trump from putting anyone that the Republicans will accept on the Supreme Court. And ultimately, 99% of people in Congress, they vote along partisan lines 99% of the time. There are very few holdouts. Rand is actually, once again, sane man in the room. He's coming out and saying, well, one of the people that's apparently on Trump's short list was involved with some of the Bush-era surveillance stuff. I probably wouldn't vote for them. It would stop the justice because the Republicans only have a very slim majority in the Senate, so they wouldn't get it through. It would cause problems. Trump needs to tread carefully because he needs to make sure beforehand that he has all the Republicans supporting it for the most part, and maybe even a few of the Democrats. My advice to him remains the same. You can stack the court now. You can put another Gorsuch in Anthony Kennedy's place and rage the left. They will take the Senate if you do this. They will win the Senate. If they win the Senate, then, you know, when Ginsburg dies off, you would have had a chance to replace her with a moderate. Now you've lost that chance. They will obstruct endlessly. They'll change the Senate rules back too, probably. They'll keep you stymied and not pass a thing. They will obstruct on every single issue, and you could fail in 2020. Trump needs to tread carefully, especially with respect to a few issues. Rand needs to be on board, obviously. Important Republican senator, very visible, generally well-liked. Also carries a lot of the Republican Party's youth appeal solely on his own shoulders, along with Trump. Not a good idea to piss him off. And he's easily pissed off. Like that time he was live streaming, he's like, I don't know why I'm fucking doing this, and then he just shuts it off. That was very surreal. It was very funny, because I mean, mostly people were just trolling him on the stream, I guess. And so it was pretty funny. He was just wandering around the halls of Congress, ranting incoherently. I don't know, maybe he got into his alcohol a little bit early that day. The other thing is Roe v. Wade. Now, there's an NBC story I'm going to be covering separately. They're like, it doesn't really matter who he puts there. It's not going to endanger Roe v. Wade. Yes, but perception versus reality, an important concept that I keep bringing up. The reality is Roe v. Wade is set in stone. It's not going to get overturned. It doesn't matter if he replaces Anthony Kennedy with someone who's like a Neil Gorsuch. They're not going to touch it. They don't have the balls. Nobody within the Republican sort of coalition has the balls to really challenge it. They'll talk about it. They'll say, oh, the murdered babies, think of the fetus rights or something. At the end of the day, they're not going to do anything about it. And they would have to overturn an extremely important established precedent that most people in the country have more or less gotten used to. Ultimately, that religious former majority is dwindling. It's being replaced by more moderate religiosity. A lot of people have gotten over it, and it's sort of a dead issue. It'd be like revisiting gay marriage. It's just not going to happen. Some people are worried about that, too. It's like, what are you fucking smoking? Anthony Kennedy was already center-right, but here's the thing. Now the left, because it's impotent, can't stop Trump's nominee. They're begging him. They're on bended knee. They're like, please nominate Merrick Garland. It's the only morally imperative choice that you could make. So in other words, you want him to put a leftist on the court to replace someone who's on the right. Yes, I am sure that that is totally likely. It's so likely that Trump is going to buck his own party, most of his own voters, and put someone that Obama thought was a good idea on the court. You know what? He would get impeached if he tried. And he knows that. And the Los Angeles Times knows it's not actually going to happen. And come on, you can't possibly be that ignorant. You can't be so dumb that you actually think that there's any chance in hell that Donald Trump is going to post anyone into SCOTUS who isn't somewhere on the right wing of the spectrum on at least most issues. Personally, if I had my druthers, it'd be someone who wouldn't revisit Roe v. Wade, but who is rabidly pro-gun and probably would strike down any existing gun control that came before them. It would have to be like Ted Nugent style on firearms. So, yeah, that's I think what he should do. But SCOTUS won't revisit it anyway, but people will perceive it that way. And so if you take someone who's like, well, you know, I believe in the rights of the unborn, and yes, I'm a very religious man. I praise Jesus every single day. I gave $1 million to my church. If you stack the court with someone like that, who's not exactly like an Anthony Kennedy, a moderate, right-wing individual is like, well, morally, We need to show a little bit more restraint, maybe at the government level, autonomy matters and so forth. If you were to do that, the left would use that as a campaign issue. Right now, the left is on the ropes. Right now, the right wing has the moral high ground because you can post up pictures of Maxine Waters and say, hey, these unhinged lunatics are taking over the Democratic Party. They're weaponizing it. They're trying to take away all of our liberty. They want to tax you up the ass. They want to destroy the job market, and they want people to be physically assaulted. That's a pretty good position to be in going into the midterms. But if they, all of a sudden, the left says, hey, they're coming for your women, basically, that could be a pretty good campaign issue. Then their immigration Hail Mary that failed, it's no longer clear that they would continue to fail. They might take that up as an issue and actually win on it. So Donald Trump has to weigh things carefully. He could also wait until after the midterms. The Republicans, if he did delay, aren't going to lose the Senate. The Republicans are heavily favored to win more seats in the Senate even than they have now. It'll probably be 2 or 3 seats net gain. It could be more than that depending on what happens with Trump's approval and with the generic ballot. We've got to study both numbers, and we also have to look at the somewhat, at the moment, sporadic polling within individual races. In the House, there are more races, more toss-ups. It's much more difficult to tell which way it's going to go in. I still think the Republicans maintain the House, albeit by a considerably smaller total than they do now. Some Republicans are like, no, we're going to win more House seats. That's not going to happen. Demographically speaking, at the moment, it would require that the Democratic leadership entirely implode and that the Republicans, basically the Democrats would have to call for open treason or civil war in order for you to actually gain House seats. In the Senate, it looks rosy, though. I mean, you've got a 6-to-1 situation with regards to the August recess that McConnell called off. Don't worry about it too much. You need to pour more effort into trying to get a 4th Senate seat if you can. Protection in the Senate would be much more important at this point, even almost, than retaining the House by any significant majority. Because, most of the House Republicans, again, they vote on partisan lines. You need a simple majority for practically everything there. Not a big concern if you're only ahead by 3 or 4 seats. As far as Merrick Garland, though, Merrick Garland will never be on the Supreme Court. The Democrats want him. They're like, well, Obama got robbed of his justice. No. It would have been odd, historically speaking, going into a presidential election for Obama to have gotten a Supreme Court nominee. There have been cases before, and the reason why they wanted that so badly is to secure Obama's legacy. Obama's legacy has been torn apart. There is a reason why he is not particularly visible in U.S. politics right now. There's a reason why he has stepped back and largely is not engaged in them. He's going to be like Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter was an absentee for several decades. He goes, well, I was a one-termer, and there were the oil shocks, the Iranian hostage situation. Reagan came along, totally outshined me. I'm taking a break from politics. Now he weighs in from time to time. Oddly enough, seems to be more favorable towards Trump than almost any other Democrat within politics. It shows how far the Democratic Party has migrated when Jimmy Carter starts looking like a blue dog. I think Obama, he's taking a hands-off approach. I think he feels personally screwed. I would love to ask him this, like, in privacy. Do you feel personally screwed by the DNC and by sort of the Clinton left? 99% chance he would admit, if you were being honest, yeah, I do feel screwed by him. They tried to throw him under the bus. Why is he going to rise to their defense? And he's the most popular Democrat, too. Jimmy Carter probably would be the only one other than him that would be more popular at this point. Because he's old and he builds houses and, he's a peanut farmer or whatever. Or was that his brother? I always get that mixed up. I thought that he was the one that was like, he was in the peanut industry, or his family has ties to it. He's a peanut president. He also looks a little bit like the human semblance of that anthropomorphic peanut from those ads there. Can't even remember the company because, like, who fucking cares? A GIF or something. No, as far as Merrick Garland, though, sorry left, but you don't have the power to put him on the Supreme Court. It's not going to happen, and Trump's probably going to get a second term because you keep bungling. Even if he doesn't, look, in the next year, Ginsburg could keel over. As long as it isn't within 6 months of the next election, he's going to get to put in whoever he wants. And by the way, even if it were close, he could just put him in anyway. I would advise him not to. I would advise him stand on principle, say, no, I'm going to wait until after the election, in respect, just like we did with Garland before when Obama was president. So, I'm not going to overstep that sort of the pomp and circumstance. Should do that. But he may very well get a third justice in his first term. He probably then gets a justice or two in his second. Considering the age of these people, again, Ginsburg is 85, I believe, and I think there's another justice. It was Clarence Thomas. How old is he? Can't remember. I think he was among the younger justices when he was first put there, and now he's on the older side. But then again, there is no young Supreme Court justice. I think isn't the youngest 49, and that's like a spring chicken for the Supreme Court. The person that he puts on the court, even if they're on the young side, they'll probably be at least in their late 40s to mid 50s. That's the way the SCOTUS works. It's kind of weird. It slows things down, I think, in this country to some extent. But then you have to have someone who has an established track record of decisions within a judicial or at least legal framework in order to justify him. I mean, if he were to put some 30-year-old on there or try to, they would get shot down even by the Republicans. It'd be funny. He should say, well, Barron Trump's going to be on the Supreme Court because he's more intelligent than half the justices that are already there. It'd be, really funny. He should make a joke about that, actually, and then allude to time traveling. That's about all. Peace out.